This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Fantasy football training camp is back at Treasure Island Resort and Casino. Join Paul Charchian, remember him, and the Fantasy Football Weekly crew Friday, August 15th in the Full Deck Ballroom, 6 to 9 p.m. Enjoy elite fantasy football knowledge and your shot at a $1,000 grand prize. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
So, speaking of Church of Charge, are these media reports accurate? That he's not going to be one of us anymore? He's moving out?
He's not one of us anymore.
So that's already happened.
He moved to Utah.
It is. I heard it was Utah. I didn't know when it was. Any regrets? How long has he been out there? Do we know?
Month or two.
Any regrets? Does he miss us?
I just look at the pictures that he sends of the mountains.
So is it the Wasatch Mountains in the background?
I'm not sure which mountain range.
Okay.
But it looks nice.
Looks
we don't
very
have
nice.
mountains here.
No, we don't. Well, we have a couple hills. What's the hill that
Lindsey Vaughn.
Buck
Hill?
Buck Hill? That's
was
a hill.
one of them.
It's not a mountain. It's a hill.
It's a hill, yeah.
Yeah, they got real mountains out there. But it's Utah, though.
Yeah.
And, there's trade-offs. Is he, away from civilization? Is this we're getting off the grid?
No, I think he's
kind
on
of
the
a move?
grid.
Okay.
I mean, he's charged. He's going to
have to be
locked
somewhat,
into technology.
Yeah.
But I liked his thinking. He just said...
Enough.
Well, I
Was
think
it
the
the
phrase
taxes?
he used with PA was, I didn't want to live cradle to grave in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, that's...
And I've got the time.
Yeah.
And I've got the ability at my age.
Sure.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
We'll see what happens.
I'm curious, did he say how he chose or why he chose Utah?
They do like the hiking.
Okay,
He
that's
and his
good.
wife Roxy,
A lot
they
of
do
good
like the hiking
ideas.
in the
Okay.
outdoors.
Okay.
And he got into campers big time. We would have long talks about RVs and campers because,
Nice.
I'm an RV man.
Even better.
So it was good.
Well, you've proven that for sure.
No doubt.
As I mentioned, Jerry Zgoda will join us in about a little less than a half hour. A lot of texts coming in on a number of very controversial subjects, including this. This is from Walleye King Nelson. The Twins just traded their best sunflower seed thrower in the dugout.
Wow.
During live interviews. I did see, so was it Paddock then? That's who was doing it? Because I don't know who was being interviewed, but it literally, it went from being mildly cute to obnoxious, where the entire interview, he never stopped throwing the sunflower seed. Now, I guess
relentless.
better sunflower seeds than spitting tobacco, because those days are over, I guess, in dugouts, right?
Supposed to be.
I think they're supposed to be largely. There's a lot more sunflower seeds than anything else, I think, at this point. I don't think there's as many chaws as there used to be, by any means. But I didn't realize that was him. So that is I wonder, you'd think we might have gotten a second prospect for that, but apparently that's not valued. Sunflower seed thrower is not valued.
Well, how about this, though? We're learning about our new catcher, the minor leaguer switch hitting.
Yes.
He apparently also plays a little bit of first base. So does that count as kind of like another half prospect?
Well, maybe.
Position
he does.
flexibility, catcher and first base?
A catcher with a good arm never hurts. Not going to argue about that. Paddock, I have you deal him, whatever. If you can get something for him. I always thought it was a faulty premise that the amount of people, the ball guys telling me you project, all right, he's figuring it out. I never bought any of the Paddock steam. So in this case, if you can get a prospect, even if it's not top end, I'm 100% fine with that. These sorts of names being traded away, I just don't think there's any major loss. Somebody did point out that we got a lot of games left with the Tigers, so there's a good chance that Paddock will have at least one revenge opportunity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he'll be able to give them our playbook like they do in football, like we talked about last week.
I forgot about
the
that.
scouting report, he'll have it all locked in.
All the scouting reports, yeah.
How will we know?
Chris has checked in, very unhappy with our conversation with Johnny regarding Shaquille's ongoing stupidity on Rudy Gobert. He writes, one of the best centers in NBA history watches Rudy, and like millions of other NBA fans is not impressed by what he sees. What's the problem? I don't know. I'm not all that interested in trying to persuade Chris. I'm not all that interested in trying to persuade the people who get stupid on Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I know.
Rudy Gobert is not above criticism. Rudy Gobert has limitations. You can even make the argument that I don't want to pay him that much, even in today's standard, and I'd respect that. I don't have a problem with that. But it becomes stupidity when you don't acknowledge the impact he has on the defensive end of the floor. I'm going to ask you a question. In the history of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jerry Zgoda will know the answer to this question too, because he's covered a lot of bad Wolves clubs, more bad than good. In the history of this team, how many times have they made it to the conference finals?
3.
Okay. The first time was with KG
yes.
and MV3, correct?
Yes.
Sprewell and Cassell. Who was the center on the other 2 teams who back-to-back have made it to, didn't win it all, acknowledge, didn't win it all, but got to the Final Four for a franchise that could never get within even a sniff of this since Kevin Garnett left? Who's the center?
Rudy Gobert.
This isn't complicated. And just because you want to fixate on, look at him, oh, awkward. He had the balls right in his hands, it fell right out of his hands.
Which is annoying.
And we've all acknowledged it's annoying, right?
But
I mean, you can't leave out both the eye test and the analytics and what they tell us about the difference in the Wolves defense, Utah defense back when he was there, when he's on the floor and when he's not on the floor. But that's not as sexy because it's not about swooping in and necessarily blocking a shot. It's about influencing the way the offense attacks your defense and not having all that much success, relatively speaking, with it. There's not viral moments with that. Because even like I said, Rudy can block a shot, but that's really not the greatest strength most of the time that he's offering. And so you can't, how do you turn that into, let's see, how did he influence throughout the first 9 minutes he's on the court in the first quarter what the other team was trying to do and unable to do offensively? You need more than a viral moment. You probably have to have, several minutes of a coach explaining, here's what Rudy did there that made that player turn away and not get the ball to the place that he wanted to. I'm not calling him a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm just saying, if what you analyze has anything to do with team performance, open your bleeping eyes. And he has been the catalyst defensively to giving a wonderfully blessed offensive player, Anthony Edwards, a chance to blossom and to lead a team offensively enough to where they've made it 2 straight years to the conference finals. This isn't that complicated.
And I even go back.
Bizarre.
I said this last week, too. I go back to the year before that when they lost to Denver, I think it was, in the first round.
Yes.
And they have no chance of even being a playoff team once Towns got hurt that year if Rudy's not on there. Just look at his winning percentage his entire career, going back to Utah. How many times was Utah a number 1 or 2 seed-ish, top 4 seed in the Western Conference? The Utah Jazz. A lot, right, when Conley and Gobert were there? It is exhausting to continue. That's why I kind of just stopped doing it.
Yeah, it's not even worth it.
Because you don't even need a coach or anybody explaining it to you. Just watch like a series of 4 or 5 defensive possessions and just watch how many times he impacts something subtly. It shouldn't even be that complicated to watch it and go, that's his value. That's why he's good. And that's why, guess what? A lot of his teams win. Now, maybe they haven't won a championship, and maybe that's what people are holding against him, but I love watching him play. Not offensively, obviously, and there's times where his team clearly doesn't want to give him the ball, and that's a big problem. But just think about, would this Timberwolves team, before they made the deal, would they have made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row? I'm going to bet no.
The answer is no.
If Jared Vanderbilt and even Towns was still here as your centers, it just wouldn't have happened.
What did we all say at the time on Towns is better? Towns' defensive deficiencies are workable if you can put a great defender next to him. And that's what happened. That's how that evolved. And in fact, then, to his credit, Towns also worked harder defensively. He
was really good.
And it was certainly in the playoffs was more the solution than a problem. But if you want to get hung up on the draft choices, you can. Is that one too many for me? Maybe. But look at since the draft choices that have been sent away and check what those teams have done and what those players who was a single player acquired for all the draft choices has done compared to what Rudy Gobert has done. It at some point it tells me you're trying to sound cool around your friends who don't know the game any better than you do. And so God bless you if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I hate going hipster on it when you don't get the game.
But it's true.
But I don't think you do.
It's undeniable if you're not paying it. It tells me you're just paying attention to offense. Or you're getting, what about that time when Luka was isolated on him? See what happened then? It was awful. It was a terrible play. But there's not a center alive that would have looked any better than Rudy Gobert did against a top 5 offensive player, basically almost his entire career since he came into the NBA.
Did you see Luka, by the way? The Luka update?
I keep hearing he looks like he weighs 80 pounds.
You need to, maybe during the pause,
all right.
I think he's on the cover of GQ.
All right.
And as we said at the time, the most predictable transformation has happened with Luka. And it's going to be interesting when he comes back stateside.
I'll look right.
Gabriel Iglesias is bringing his comedy tour to Treasure Island Resort and Casino live September 6th and 7th. Don't miss your chance to see one of the world's funniest comedians, and tickets are available at ticasino.com.
Trying to get to the athletic.com. By the way, I did check out a couple of the images you suggested regarding Luka. I didn't even recognize him.
No.
Predictable. It looked like a different face, let alone body. You sure that was not some AI-generated Luka?
I'm not sure
the
because
cover of,
it's
was
2025.
it Men's Health? What was the magazine?
It was either that or GQ. I can't remember.
Yeah.
You had to see that coming, though. I mean, he was skinnier like 10 minutes later.
Yes. Well, a couple people much smarter than either one of us has mentioned, they've mentioned the most important question, and that is, will he keep it off? That, in fact, this is good. This was the first step, right? You have to have this happen, but it's how he maintains during the season. Yeah. Late nights, the whole bit. Can he maintain it? That's
Men's Health.
Fair to say. Men's Health. That was what I thought, yeah.
Oh, Pelinka's going to be on him, though.
I wonder, he could fit into Pelinka jacket right now.
Maybe that was part of it.
In fact, the jacket might look big on him, to be honest with you. He looks so svelte.
It looked like Tom Hanks in Big when he shrinks.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Did you happen to check out Alec Lewis's 5 early takeaways from camp?
I did. Yeah, what stood out to you?
Did you read number 2?
I don't remember number 2 specifically.
The backup quarterback situation
yeah, I did.
Is off to a shaky start.
Depends on what you think.
Sam Howell, majority of the backup QB reps. Not good. The best way to sum up Howell's performance is a beat too slow. As for the other quarterbacks, Max Brosmer's accuracy is noticeable.
Try to tell you.
It's not too early. In fact, it is an ideal time to invest in Brosmer Brownstones. This is the time.
This is it.
You can get in on but once stories like this get out, and the word is he's got a chance, there is a path to the backup job for him. And number's going to double pretty quickly for the Brownstones. So get on the Brosmer Brownstones right now.
So when I read that, I said, do I send that to Dan? Or is it too obvious? Do I just maybe see what he does with it? Because I know you read Alec Lewis, who doesn't.
How can you not?
Because I thought for me it would be a little bit too obvious to send it to you. Like I do when there's like a miracle cat once a decade that does something, and I always send it to you just to try to balance out the miracle dog stuff that we've talked about for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I read that and I said, it's probably too obvious. But for me, not surprising, because what have I said since they signed him? Do not give Brosmer a chance at the field.
You've not had any. I mean, you haven't had to convince me. I definitely did like the way he played last year, and said, who's to say? Because I'm not the backups we had out here. I was not necessarily that big a fan on. So you didn't really have to work too hard.
Good
on me for sure.
Brosmer Brown.
Speaking of Alec Lewis, Viking starters just went with a 2-minute period. Defensive domination probably would have been multiple sacks. Jonathan Grenard could not be stopped. Hargrave wreaking havoc, too.
He has one other name at some point. I don't know if it's on the same tweet.
Dallas Turner?
Dallas Turner.
Yeah, look good.
As Alex said, is on one.
I wonder if our defense is too good for our offense to actually figure it out.
You saw the Metellus quotes from over the weekend that we're at the Masters level now.
Yes.
Now, I don't necessarily understand that.
No,
you kind of do because you pursued a master's degree.
I did. I didn't finish, though.
But Jonathan Grenard, by the way, your guest tomorrow at the Perch.
Oh, good.
When we are back for Vikings training camp.
Oh, nice.
So Grenard will stop by after practice.
Grenard. What about Brosmer? Can we add Brosmer?
We'll get to him.
Sooner or later. I want to get him going. I want to get I want to see if I can get him to demand more snaps, more reps.
After he throws a couple of tutties against the Texans Saturday, August 9th.
Could happen.
Maybe you can get him on sermons the next day.
Did you hear, speaking of peculiar training camp stories, see if I saved it. Or did I might have moved out of it because I went to the Athletic. Let me see if I can get it back. Come on, here it is. So, have you heard much about the Raiders' release of defensive tackle Christian Wilkins?
I've seen the headlines, but I don't know the story.
Okay, well, here's the story. I mean, I think some of it had to do with his health, his condition, but there's another wrinkle to it. The suggestion, because a couple media outlets have written that part of it had to do with kissing a teammate on the head.
Oh.
During a practice session, I believe. Now, maybe it was in a meeting room. I'm not sure. But I'm looking at a Pro Football Talk response to this story, and they quote Schefter because he published an article about it. He reports that the incident happened last week in a team meeting room, so not in the locker, or not in the field, team meeting room. One source said that the interaction was playful. The teammate nevertheless objected, filing a report with the team's HR department. Now, there's also the Raiders voided the $35.2 million in guarantees, remaining guarantees on Wilkins' deal on June 4. The Players Association filed a grievance on Wilkins' behalf. The same day Wilkins was released, designation of terminated vested veteran. And so what Florio asks, was this incident, they had a problem with his alleged failure to rehab his foot injury. So was the incident in the meeting room finally truly the final straw, or are they simply hoping another potential reason to wipe out his guarantees might fall into their laps? As to the incident, would a reasonable professional football player make a report to HR over a teammate allegedly kissing him on the head? Seems like an extreme reaction, being kissed in the head. So if an HR report was indeed filed, it's fair to wonder whether the player who made the report has a different version of the event. So I don't know if there's more. It's a very strange story, as I said. So maybe there's still developments to be had and more reporting to do on that one. But that would be a new one, I think, if indeed that's being accurately reported. So there you have it.
Not heard that very often.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's all that much. In about an hour, we will chat with best-selling author Kyle Mills, who is now off of the Mitch Rapp series, back to writing his own series of books, which he'd already done before he picked up the Mitch Rapp series. And he's coming to town Wednesday. So we're going to have him on by phone at about 5:30 tonight to talk about his new book, just out, getting very good reviews, I might add. And we'll catch up on some other things with him as well. Find out if he's still living in Spain, which I think is where he was living last time we chatted with him. But when we come back, my old pal Jerry Zgoda, I worked with for a number of years, sat side by side back in the days. You could sit courtside if you were a media member at Minnesota Timberwolves games. Basically, right down from the bench. It would usually be, it could be Z, and then it could be me, and then it could be Sid. We all kind of jostled for the position to be as far away from Sid as possible.
Oh, sure.
And so it was a matter of who got there first, kind of.
So was Charlie Swanson, Lexus of Wayzata, like two down? Did he sit with you guys? It's the same spot, right?
That's pretty close,
Pretty much?
Pretty close.
So those are his seats now.
Exactly it, just on the other side of the field, on the side of the court, I should say. All right, so we'll get to Z. About 41 years in the business. He announced yesterday via X that the stories he wrote on the golf, TPC, are the end of the run for him. He is leaving the Star Tribune and leaving, I think, newspapers after 41 years of very distinguished service. We'll allow him to wax rhapsodic, and I'm sure we're going to get a good story or two with Z. He is next. I just generally used to call him Z, even though the name itself is not that long. But worked with Jerry Zgoda for a long time as an ink-stained wretch at the newspaper, the Twin Cities, now called the Minnesota Star Tribune. And Jerry Zgoda confirmed via X yesterday that I'm wrapping this up. The stuff I write in the Golf today for tomorrow's paper, or for online, is the end of the run after a very distinguished 41-year run as an ink-stained wretch. Z now joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Is it going to be like, was yesterday emotional? Will the next few days be emotional? Or are you sort of already kind of past that point that you've already had, your period where if it was going to be emotional, you got to it, and now you're just moving on with the rest of your life?
Well, thanks for having me on, Daniel, my brother. But it was a ways in the coming. Earlier this summer, the paper announced they're going to offer buyouts for employees.
Yep.
And I thought long and hard about it. I don't know where all the time went. 41 years, but it was sort of, some people who took it, were out left right away in a couple days, and I made a deal with them even before they had offered the buyouts. Our Twins baseball writer, Bobby Nightingale, needed 2 weeks off in July because they were having a baby, and then there was the golf tournament. So I said, well, I'll work for 1 month. So it gave me a little bit of a ramp down. But
nice. Still,
yesterday when people were coming up to me and saying happy retirement, it was almost like, who are you talking about? I'm not retiring. It still doesn't feel quite real.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand it completely. Do you remember the first story you wrote?
Well, if it qualifies as a story, I published my first newspaper at the age of 6.
There you go. Yeah.
With crayons on the back of Red Owl grocery sacks.
There you go.
So I'd get the day's scores from the 6:30 news of the Yankees and the Twins, and then I'd deliver them to my neighbors, and they gave me 2 cents a week each and humored me.
That's even better. How about your first Star Tribune story?
The first Star Tribune story might have been the firing of Bill Mahoney.
Is that right?
A North Star coach. It was like I was hired on. Well, officially my anniversary date is Halloween 1984, but I think a couple days before that. And in fact, Sid kind of gave me the scoop. He came out of Lou Nanny's office, after they lost another game. It was still pretty early in the season, and he goes, go hard with this. And at that point in my career, I still didn't trust Sid that much, so I probably should have gone harder with it.
Right.
He knew everything that was going on. But yeah, that was the first. There may have been something the day before, but then right after that, I remember going to New Jersey to kind of start the life of a scribe, to get on a plane and fly.
So have you added up the number of losses you've covered?
Oh, man. I don't have that big of a calculator.
You're well below 500,
I can tell you that 18 years of the Wolves and had one playoff series, and that was with Jimmy Butler in Houston, and they lost in 5.
Yeah, that's right. That was on your second run with the Wolves, correct?
Yeah. I had two. The first was about 5 years, and the second one was 13 years. Our boss, Glenn Crevier, said, just do it for a year. Just do it for a year. And it ended up being 13 years. So,
I mean, it is uncanny how many losses you had to write. I mean, because obviously the first 5 years were disastrous. Although, again, it was honeymoon period early. Everybody knew they were going to lose. But there is an art to sort of keeping your head above water, right? As you're trying to find a way to capture this stuff when there's not anything all that, substantive other than negativity to capture.
You have to get specific to write the same story 65 times in a year. There was something unique about each game, even though the ending was always pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Wolves kick it away in the fourth quarter, lose game, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you about just how bad my record is without counting it up. I'm pretty sure my career winning percentage is lower than Kurt Rambis's.
Probably has to be. But you at least can't be blamed. Because, I mean, you're not coaching them, so all you do, I'm just the chronicler of this.
Well, I'm kind of blamed because Sid always used to call me when on the Wolves beat Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Death, yes.
Of course, he was the guy also after I went to Antarctica for 6 months or 6 weeks on an assignment, called me Mr. North Pole.
I remember that too. Yeah. Once he got something in his head, there's no turning back. So for a long time, you were Kiss of Death, and then for a long time, hey, Mr. North Pole. There he is. It's amazing.
Yeah, then when we told him he was wrong, he tried to change it. It's like, Sid, it's not nearly as charming as Mr. North Pole. Go back to saying the first one.
What do you remember about the early days and with the Wolves? Anything, stand out to you about that period? Because you had probably the closest thing to what today would be considered a mom-and-pop operation. I mean, Harv and Marv weren't poor, but obviously by today's standards they were. And so it was a very different kind of, not a very corporate operation, obviously. What do you remember about all of that?
Well, I just remember it was so much different. I mean, now, players have their own publicists beyond the teams. And you can't really get that close to them. Everything's, but back then it was all these guys who were coming out of the CBA who just wanted to to get a job. So, I mean, you could kind of hang with them. You could go out with them. I mean, you could go, trying to remember, I think it was Todd Murphy. We were out going for ice cream one night, which we never do anymore, players and writers. And Randy Brewer, who had a really acerbic wit, said something to Todd Murphy. And Todd said, Brew, go mow your neck.
Mow your neck. I remember that. Yes. Those
are the kind of little memories that I have from just, they were just average guys. It wasn't like it is now.
It's funny because I look back early. I was in the group that was fairly critical of the Musselman hire. And there was a lot of tension there, although he actually treated me overall pretty well. And then ultimately, once he left here, I ended up becoming pretty good friends with him. We used to have him on the radio all the time, etc. What was, from a beat person perspective, what was Muss like to cover?
Oh, he walked that fine line between genius and madman, and it's more to the one side most of the time than others. But he was fun. I mean, he's the kind of guys that you and Royce love to cover. They call them characters.
Yes.
And, he was a great guy. I remember one time, very early on, first or second year, there was a guy named Scott Howard Cooper. He used to work for the LA Times, and he was in town doing something early on the Wolves. So after a game, he waited for like all of us to get done talking to the press conference with Musselman, and to go up and introduce himself. And then we all cleared out, and he approaches, and Bill looks up and goes, "Who are you, CIA?" And it was just kind of this really weird. He had this faraway eyes kind of look,
yes,
and he was fun to cover, but very, very odd.
Yeah, there's no question. Well, the famous, one of the more famous moments that's become part of ancient fan lore was I want to say it was the first year because they were still playing at the Dome, and the Wolves beat somebody. And I had already established, my belief. You can't worry about losing. You want a good draft pick. You want to tank response. You don't want to tank, but you want to tank responsibly, blah, blah, blah. And obviously Bill was, we're going to win as many games as we can win. So all that stuff had sort of been written. And they win a game against somebody they're not supposed to beat. I don't remember who it was. And Sal Brandeis. You remember Sal? The game's just ending. The crowd's going crazy. The players are going nuts around Muss, whatever. And Sal looks down the bench towards us, towards me, because obviously we were right there, courtside back in those days, were the writers, and that's when he yelled out famously, "What's wrong with winning?" And since then, it's sort of become part of the fan lore. No matter what the stance is, I quote Sal about what's wrong with winning. I think you might have been there that night. I'm not sure, but there was a lot of that tension, I think, early in that regard about what you're exactly trying to accomplish.
You should have sold the T-shirts. What's wrong with winning?
That's true. It's a perfect name for a T-shirt. You're right. So your last year with the Wolves, they were still terrible then, right? Who was the coach the last year on your first stint?
Well, it was Thibodeau, and then
no, I mean your first stint.
Who we had all covered when we just thought he was out getting Muss's laundry. When he was an assistant coach 25 years before
okay,
that.
Right. And then you left the Wolves to do what? Refresh my memory.
I ended up, it was just trying to, by that time I'd just been ground down by just doing the just doing the beat and being gone all the time and all that stuff. So they just moved me over to where I could do. I was basically a utility infielder. Whatever you need me to do. You need me to cover the Loon soccer, I'll do that. You need me to cover women's pro hockey, I'll do that. So my versatility was basically what I relied on the last 5-6 years. It was just because of in search of a more normal life. And
did you find that normalcy?
Yeah. Although I still miss the people, and
sure,
I miss some of the travel. I don't miss all of it, but things are changing. I mean, it was just time for when I was debating this, it was just time for a change. The paper's trying to get younger and more tech savvy, and they say nobody reads game stories anymore, which is kind of my bread and butter. So and a few other scribes around the country. So it was just sort of the time, but. These last 6-7 years I felt like, I had a bit of a life. And now what comes after this, people say, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I go, for right now, nothing.
Yeah, it's okay. You can figure that out.
We'll see how long that lasts.
A texter writes this, because I don't remember this. You got to ask Zgoda about the article he wrote about the KFAN launch. Pete Stevens had him on and challenged Z to a fight. Do you remember that? Do you have any recollection of that?
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, I don't remember the name. I wouldn't remember the guy's name, but I do remember. Yeah, that was some. I can't remember, but it was sort of derogatory. I think a little bit to the whole idea of sports talk radio.
You looked down on it, didn't you, Z? You kind of were like what do these clowns think they're going to accomplish, right?
Just what who's going to listen to this all day?
And the rest is kind of history. By the way, is my memory faulty? And it often is. Weren't you helping on a lot of the Gopher Final Four coverage the Clem year? Or am I
I was the beat guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I thought you were the beat guy. I thought it was, and then I started second guessing.
I was the guy who went down to San Antonio.
Yeah. And so as far as you're concerned, it actually did happen, even though it's been wiped away. You remember it. Do you remember all those games? What was Clem like to cover?
He was. I mean, we had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, but.
Say it again.
But,
yeah. Oh, go ahead. We lost you for a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what he was like behind the scenes, but he was one of those control coaches.
He was.
I think still exists, but maybe not as much as back then.
So you never had? Did you ever do much Vikings? You did some sidebars, I'm assuming, at the very least. But did you ever have to cover?
I helped out like in playoffs and Super Bowls, and I did that the same thing with the World Series. I never covered Vikings or Twins per se, but.
A little bit of everything,
but I covered a little bit of everything. I mean, I've covered. Remember when we used to have a TV radio column? I did one of those.
That's right. I forgot about that. You did. Well, the thing about it is, I mean, you kind of
the thing that came out about that was when Jack McCloskey challenged Sid to a fight during a press conference.
That's right. Remember that? How good was that? That was when, wasn't it? Was it Ryder was late for a presser or something?
Yeah, he missed like 2 flights.
Yeah.
Sid was in the back saying, Calvert Cheney
would have been here.
Drafted, who was a Bobby Knight guy, and he goes, Calvert Cheney wouldn't have been late. Calvert Cheney. And all of a sudden from the front, Sid, you want to step outside?
Yeah, that's it. I do remember that very vividly. Well, you hit it, though. Part of your value, and I don't even know if the roles, because of the degree to which the business is evolving, if they matter as much anymore. But, I mean, historically, to me, in any sports section, you represented the strength in that you had beats, but they could throw anything at you, and you could go cover a sidebar in another sport. You could go write a profile if you had to. You could do anything. That's, to me, that was your great value. Is that people could, the editors could say, what we need, who we got? Well, we got Z's available. And it was something you could handle. I'm guessing sometimes you wished you weren't that versatile, but because then you're the one they're going to call. But to me, in the heyday of what I would call the newspaper industry, that's you represent to me that great value that's more important perhaps than any other position. Just a good newspaper guy is going to go out and get the story, find it and write it well, report it fine, and write it as well.
And it's harder to do than you think to have yourself, be knowledgeable about 6 different things.
Yes.
When I was doing the Wolves, I could do that thing because I knew that team and everything like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm. True.
I could give you 20 inches on anything, on any notice, but when you have to go out and you shuffle it around and go do this one day, go to the Wolves one day, or the Twins one day, or whatever, or the Wild, those are all different things, and it took some skill and some knowledge to do it, but kind of once you had it down, I don't know. There's a guy who was at the paper for years and years and years, Jay Weiner.
Yes.
And we always used to debate. We came up that there's only really like 6 different stories there are to write, and I'm not sure how we came up with that number, but put me down on a typewriter and I'll write anything for you.
Well, the other thing you did, one of the purposes you served for me, for sure, was occasionally playing referee between Sid and me, because there were times where, as you know, Sid could be vengeful. I mean, evil, medieval, how bitter he could get about something that I might have written, or an argument about a player, or whatever the case may be. And occasionally, sadly, you had to kind of be in the middle of that and try to be the peacemaker.
Oh, and you could see that. That's the way it was. When people were choosing their seats, if they weren't already assigned, I always got stuck in the middle. To keep you guys off to the right, you and Ash, and,
That's right.
and all that. And I was a little maybe more successful at tolerating Sid and not letting him get to my boiling point.
You had a much more even temperament. I will grant 100%. Certainly than me to a large extent, and Ashy to a degree as well. You mentioned the plan early is to just sit, which is good. I think that's the healthy approach to take. But you're not that. How old are you, by the way?
I'm going to be, I get Cobra now for my insurance, and it's going to take me, they gave us 6 months of it.
Oh.
It's going to take me exactly to my 65th birthday.
65. Oh, actually, okay, you're a little older than I thought, but I'm thinking you're still too young, I think, to retire. But I mean, do you think after this period where you kind of sit and contemplate your navel that there is going to be some desire on the other end, or do you say, in terms of this business or some aspect of this business, or do you say, I might want to try to do something completely different entirely?
I might try some other kind of writing, but I already told Dave Campbell from AP, I go, you need a stringer? I'm available.
There you go. Okay.
And I already got a gig lined up with a little golf course in the Georgia Pines called Augusta National. So I'll do some of that stuff.
Wait a minute.
How that goes.
What are you talking about? What's that about? What's that little gig?
It's, not to get into the whole thing of it, but you know how they used to have the pass, punt, and kick for football? Mm-hmm. Well, they have the drive, chip, and putt, and Augusta National runs it, and they have kind of satellite competitions all across the country, including one at Hazeltine. Okay. So I did it last year, and I'm going to do it again. Nice. But it's kids like 8 to 18 contesting, and the winners get to go to Augusta to compete in the finals in April. So it was just a little thing I got last year, and it's on my schedule very prominently because there's not much else on this right now.
It's okay. So if there are
now, let me ask you if you can remember one thing.
Okay.
Do you remember the time I think I was at your house over by Calhoun when you told me if you were still doing newspaper work in 3 years, to shoot you in the head?
I don't remember that. Is that true? That must have been did I leave the paper at the end of those 3 years?
I think you took 4 years.
4.
You were pretty prompt.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It might have been one of those more volatile, mercurial moments. But then again, I wasn't. As it turns out, I guess I wasn't a fair. Well, I didn't know the X factor I didn't know this was going to work out as well as I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. You know, that's what you never know, right? Stuff comes along sometimes, and you don't even think there's any way it's going to develop into what it does, and that made it maybe a little bit easier for me. But I'll still tell you, I do miss some aspects of the job, but that's what I was going to finish with. The job is so different, and you can speak to that much better than I, because I've been out of it for a while, so that if when kids come to you and say, I want to be Jerry, I want to be Zgoda. I want to be a jack of all trades, do some beat work, cover a team, but do a lot of other things, make myself valuable that way. I don't even know what kind of advice you would give, because it seems like that newspaper is disappearing, right? So what would you say about the state of the industry, and what kind of advice would you give kids who, want to get into it in one form or another?
Well, very few want to do the work, that it takes, like we did in the old days. Now everyone just wants to compile stuff off the internet and repackage it and put it back out.
Yeah.
Just like, this is the latest thing this morning. And I tell them seriously, I go, if you have another job that you think you can make a career out of, I'd say do it, because, I don't know how much longer this, business is going to sustain itself. We'll see, because, we used to be a newspaper. Now we're a modern digital media company.
Yeah.
And, the days of writing advances and game stories and all that stuff, I think are over. And now it's going to be video and everything in these short little snippets. And, it's something that I didn't feel like I was, you give a computer to, I sound like an old fart now,
okay.
which I am, but you give a computer to a kid, the ones that are, like late 20s, early 30s. And that, man, I couldn't imagine doing with what they know. I guess you can learn that.
Sure.
But it's two different things.
Two different things. Yeah. No, I get that. And, I don't necessarily think you sound old, because I think what you're saying is it's different skills and different jobs. And in some cases, I don't even think people are asking any longer at newspapers for some of the stuff that you're talking about. Now, some newspapers have different philosophies than others, but I think that's also part of the story. I'm glad we had a chance to catch up. I wish you nothing but success. You were just invaluable to work with. You were an absolutely great colleague. I can't say enough about that, and I probably haven't said enough about that because I've been gone from that so long. I don't see as much as I did, but I felt a really good rapport with you. I appreciated working with you all the time, largely because you were kind of even keeled, but you had a very effective, dry sometimes, sense of humor with the needle. I mean, you had good needling that you could do. You just were a little drier about it than some people, but that was part of the fun of working together as well. We could almost commiserate in that regard. So, congratulations on a hell of a run, my friend, and good luck in whatever you do next, even if it's nothing for a while.
I appreciate it. It'll be a little bit of nothing, and you can tell me this all over again when you see me at the NBA playoffs next spring.
There you go. Thanks, Z.
There was a needle. There was a little needle.
That was very well played, for sure. Be good. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Z, I call him Jerry Zgoda, 41 years in the newspaper business. Wrapping up his career at the Star Tribune, covering the golf tournament yesterday, and an absolutely terrific run. Again, he was a beat guy, but to me, his strength was he could cover pretty much anything or everything. That's why he's remained as valuable as he did over the decades. Top 5 at 5 will include
a Twins trade and what was Greg Swedberg's dream KFAN lineup back in 1991, as told to Jerry Zgoda.